Okay, here again on the Rich Van Tassel channel. Today is Saturday, September 26th. We are giving you the breakdown for Week 3's action of tomorrow, Sunday the 27th. First game that we're going to go over is the Cowboys against the Falcons. The Cowboys are the home team. Both teams come in 2-0. Obviously, the Cowboys have their injury question marks. No Tony Romo. He's going to be out for another 8 weeks. And Dez Bryant's still not available. Injuries for the Falcons. Paul Worrilow, the linebacker, is probable. Julio Jones, the wide receiver, is also probable. Brooks Reed, a linebacker. Devin Hester, a wide receiver and kick returner. And Tevin Coleman, the rookie running back, are all out. For the Cowboys, both their tight ends of James Hanna and Jason Witten are probable to go. There are some question marks with Jason Witten earlier in the week. And obviously, Tony Romo is out. For this game, Dallas's improved secondary is obviously going to have their hands full with Julio Jones and Roddy White. Matt Ryan has been throwing the ball very well. Julio Jones has been almost impossible to stop this year. I'd be curious to see who Dallas goes with on Julio Jones. Morris Claiborne has played very well this year. It looks like he's finally living up to the billing since coming into the league. Brandon Carr is their high money cornerback, a bigger guy than is Morris Claiborne, so you might see him on. And Byron Jones, who's even bigger than Brandon Carr, may get called into action as well to try to slow down Julio Jones. For the Cowboys, you have to expect that they're going to look to run the ball behind that offensive line. They obviously have to cut down on the penalties. I'd be curious to see what the Cowboys on their offensive side of the ball is, if they come out conservatively or if they try to catch Atlanta napping and maybe go downfield early. Brandon Whedon does have a strong arm. He doesn't have Dez Bryant to throw to, obviously, but Terrence Williams may be going downfield. We'll see. I think that would be advantageous to the Cowboys to get the win. I think if they play too conservative, it will hurt them. Dallas is at home. That's not really much of an advantage. Dallas has not been that good of a home team. They've been much better on the road of late than they have been at home. Difficult game to pick. I have to give it to Atlanta, though, in this game. I just don't know if the Cowboys are going to come out and have what it takes. I think they're going to play well. I think it's going to be close. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas did win, but if I'm going to make a pick, I'm going to pick Atlanta. And I like a fairly low-scoring game. I like 20-16. Dallas struggles to find the end zone. Atlanta does not. So we're going to go with the Falcons 20-16. Our next game. We have the Indianapolis Colts against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are at home. Indianapolis is 0-2. They're fresh off that loss on Monday Night Football to the Jets, so a short week for them. The Titans really got handed a pretty good beating by the Cleveland Browns last Sunday. Injuries: Jason McCourty, the cornerback for Tennessee, is questionable, and Antonio Andrews, the running back, and Delanie Walker are both probable. For Indianapolis, Vontae Davis is questionable, their best cornerback. Darius Butler, or their other cornerback, is out. Greg Toller, another cornerback, is questionable. And Dwayne Allen, the tight end, is out. And DePaul Jackson, their very good linebacker, is questionable. So a lot of questions with the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of big positions, the positions that the Colts rely on. So Marcus Mariota didn't obviously play as well last week as he did in the first week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Indianapolis has to come out and get the win. I'd like to see them run the ball more. They obviously have to cut down on the turnovers. I'd like to see Frank Gore get involved, though, as we just discussed. He's by running the ball more with him, assuming he doesn't fumble, which he's generally very reliable on, was not on Monday. But if that's the case, you eliminate Andrew Luck throwing the ball so much, and you don't become so predictable where it's a lot easier to turn the ball over. I think that's what's led to a lot of Andrew Luck's turnover situations in his career, is they become too predictable and not run the ball enough. That's why they got Frank Gore, so I'd like to see them get back to that, and I think that'll really help them. For Tennessee, it's going to be improvement. They have to try to take advantage of the defensive injuries. I'd like to see them get off to an early start and try to jump on this team. Obviously, the more that Tennessee's close in this game, the doubts are going to creep in much more for Indianapolis. They're in a must-win situation. They're a Super Bowl contending team, and they're 0-2. With that being said, I think that the Colts are going to have just an easy time in this game. I don't think Tennessee is that good. I think it showed when they got beaten by Cleveland, because Cleveland's not that good of a team. and Indianapolis needs the game more. So they got to have it. I look for Andrew Luck to really be focused and, like we said, to run the ball. Expect a pretty easy game for the Colts tomorrow. They are on the road, but you're a veteran team, a team like we said with Super Bowl aspirations. You've got to learn to beat teams like Tennessee on the road. So I'm going to take the Colts tomorrow, 27-14. Next up, the Oakland Raiders against the Cleveland Browns. Both teams 1-1. Both teams off a win last week. Oakland is traveling from the West Coast to Cleveland, so that's going to be a bit of a flight. That can generally be difficult for teams, especially in the NFC West. It has always been. It's tough to go back from the time zone where you're usually 3 hours behind and play a team on the East Coast. So we'll see how that works. As far as injuries, Charles Woodson for Oakland is the only one listed. He's probable. For the Cleveland Browns, Justin Gilbert, a very good young cornerback, is questionable. Johnny Manziel is probable. Josh McCown is probable. If Josh McCown is ready to go, he's going to get the start. All indications are that he is ready to go, and he will be starting. Johnny Manziel will be the backup. Frankly, I think Manziel's the better option, but he did not really impress last week either. And obviously, he had that disastrous game when he came in relief against the Jets in Week 1. I think Johnny Manziel needs to develop, and I think he's only going to develop more with playing time. But that's besides the point. We're going to get down to this game. I'd look for Oakland to really try to run the ball. Latavius Murray, who has a high yards per average carry, has not gotten off this year. He's only 26 carries for 109 yards coming into the year. Obviously, we've discussed at length the weapons that Derek Carr has at his disposal with Amari Cooper, who's off to a very good year, and Michael Crabtree. They both played very well last week against what I consider a good Ravens defense. And I look for Derek Carr to really get going and carry the momentum from last week into this week. Cleveland, especially if Justin Gilbert can't play, he's questionable. You do have Joe Hayden, but you'd like to have Justin Gilbert to help out to solidify both sides of the secondary at the cornerback position. I don't think it really matters much anyway. Joe Hayden has not been very impressive this year, but they're going to need him to play well. I think Joe Hayden is a quality pro. He will play well enough, but Crabtree and Amari Cooper are just too good. I look for Oakland's improved defense to get the job done, and I look for the offensive line to continue to grow. I like Oakland in a close game tomorrow, 17-14 late. I think Cleveland's defense is going to do all right, but Oakland's going to find a way. So 17-14 Oakland on the road. Gone with all three road teams this far. The Jacksonville Jaguars are traveling to New England to play the Patriots. The Patriots are about as hot as can be. And Jacksonville off a very good win. We said they're an improving team, but still, it's going to be very difficult for them to go up to New England and win this game. They might be better suited just trying to play well, make sure they're professional on the road and give New England at least a run for their money. No injuries are listed for the Jaguars. For the Patriots, Dante Hightower, the linebacker, is probable, and Dominic Easley on the defensive line is questionable. Tom Brady's really going to look to pick apart this Jacksonville defense, which isn't great. They have a lot of question marks in the secondary, probably the weakest unit on the defensive side of the ball. For Jacksonville, I would say you don't try to play conservative. You let Blake Bortles run and gun in this game. That's really the only way I see teams having much success of beating New England. Obviously, you do have to play well on the defensive side of the ball and get pressure, but you have to score points with this team. They're going to put up points no matter what. It doesn't matter how good your defense is playing. They're going to get at least 24 points most games, especially the way Tom Brady's come out this season. So I look for Jacksonville to probably come out a bit conservative, and that'll really do them in. I think they'll find their footing on the road against the defending Super Bowl champions. Obviously, a very good team, but it just won't be enough. I like the Patriots to score a lot of points. Jacksonville will catch up in the point department, but obviously not enough. I like this game 38-23. New England continues to roll tomorrow. I just did that. Excuse me. All right. The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Baltimore to play the Ravens. Ravens off to an 0-2 start. they're going to kickstart their season, it's got to come now against the team that's first place in the division. Injuries for the Bengals: Andrew Whitworth, their best offensive lineman at tackle, is probable, and AJ Green is probable. For the Baltimore Ravens, Rashad Perriman, wide receiver, is out. Lorenzo Taliaferro, their running back, is questionable. It's now or never really for Baltimore. A lot of people like Baltimore to win the Super Bowl this year. They were a chic pick in the offseason. I didn't have them making the playoffs. I think they're a better team than this. I'd like to see them get Justin Forsett more involved. Only 29 carries for 111 yards. We discussed that in the season preview. How is he going to fare now that he's the featured back? And he hasn't had many carries, but he's still under the 4-yard per carry mark. And Joe Flacco altogether has 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this season. That's really not what you would expect from Joe Flacco. He has to be better than that. Cincinnati, we've discussed their defensive line. They're going to get pressure on Joe Flacco. AJ Green against Jimmy Smith. AJ Green, the wide receiver for Cincinnati, and Jimmy Smith, the corner, the big corner and up-and-coming star for the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be a good matchup. I didn't expect Cincinnati to come out and play as well as they have. I think they're going to continue to play well, and they're going to do so against Baltimore. But Baltimore is desperate. They got to have this win. There's a lot of quality professionals. I don't know how they're going to do it, but Baltimore's going to find a way to get a win. You know, Joe Flacco is going to be Joe Cool late, and however they need to do it, they're going to win this game because they have to. I'm going to go with Baltimore, 24-21 tomorrow. The Saints travel to Carolina to play the Panthers. A lot of question marks with the Saints, obviously. Drew Brees has only 2 touchdowns this far this season. As far as injuries for the Saints, Brandon Cooks, the wide receiver, is probable. Jarius Byrd, their free safety, is out, and Drew Brees is not playing. So that I didn't even realize that. It's news to me right now. With Drew Brees out, I'm not even sure who the Saints' backup is. Drew Brees always plays, so whoever their backup is, though, is not Drew Brees, so they're really going to have their hands full. I don't know if it's still Chase Daniels, but we'll have to see and figure that out. For the Carolina Panthers, their injury situation: Jonathan Stewart, the running back, is questionable, along with Fozzie Whitaker, another running back, is also questionable. Luke Kuechly is doubtful, and Jericho Cotchery is out. So you're going to wonder how Carolina is going to run the ball without, if neither Jonathan Stewart or Fozzie Whitaker can go. I'd expect one, if not both, are going to go because they need them. For the Saints, it looks desperate, especially going on the road against the Carolina team. They're 0-2. A lot of question marks. They have a tough schedule this year. I'm sorry. Let me see who the Saints back up. Okay, it's Luke McCown. Excuse me. Chase Daniels in the team. Luke McCown, quality backup. Obviously, as we said, he's not Drew Brees. However, if Brandon Cooks can't go, then he's not even going to have his full weapons at his disposal. You'd expect, if Drew Brees is not playing, that New Orleans is going to look to run the ball with Mark Ingram. He's not had a good year, just at 3 yards per carry, 25 carries, 77 yards this season. They're weak on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, with Jarius Byrd being out. As Drew Brees been playing, I was getting ready to pick New Orleans for this game. Like I said, I just realized that, I just saw that, so that's really going to be tough. New Orleans is desperate. We know how desperate they are. Carolina, I'm not sure how good they really are or not. They played Jacksonville the first week, so they haven't had that tough of a schedule. I'm going to go with Carolina at home because Drew Brees is not playing. I would have gone with New Orleans had Drew Brees been ready to go for this game. And we'll see if anything changes, but as of right now, he's out, so you wouldn't expect it to change. So with that, I will give you the Carolina Panthers in a low-scoring game, 21-14 tomorrow of the Saints at home for the Panthers. Next up, Philadelphia Eagles travel in quotation marks because they're really just heading up the turnpike to play the Jets. The Jets have been impressive the first 2 weeks. I should have given them a little more credit in the season preview with the defensive players they have. They're good on all three levels with their front seven and that quality secondary with Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie. As far as injuries, Philadelphia's got a lot of them. Josh Huff, the wide receiver, questionable. Saye Ajurutu, their wide receiver, probable. DeMarco Murray, questionable. Mikael Kendricks, the linebacker, out. Kiko Alonso, linebacker, out. Cedric Thornton, the defensive lineman, out. For the Jets, questionable wide receiver Eric Decker. Geno Smith is probable to go. I'm a little surprised at that, so we'll see who's getting the start. I would assume it will probably still be Ryan Fitzpatrick with how well the Jets are playing, but we'll see if Geno Smith gets the start. I'm caught a little off guard with that one. I figured Geno Smith still a few more weeks to go. Devin Smith, probable wide receiver. Darrelle Revis, cornerback, questionable. Chris Ivory, running back, questionable. Lorenzo Molden, linebacker, questionable. Chris Owusu, wide receiver, out. So a lot of injuries for both teams. Philadelphia is desperate. The injuries on the defensive side of the ball are really going to hurt, especially Cedric Thornton on the defensive line. They've been looking to put pressure on Fitzpatrick or Geno Smith, whoever's getting the start. DeMarco Murray, if he can't go, I mean, you got to wonder though how much of an issue that's really going to be, considering he's not even the leading rusher on this team yet and had a horrible game last week. That offensive line doesn't pick it up. He's really going to be in for another bad game if he plays. Tough game to pick because Philadelphia is desperate, but the Jets are looking better and better each week because of that defense and what they have. Ryan Fitzpatrick has not turned the ball over. If he gets the start and continues to not turn the ball over, the Jets are going to have a pretty easy time tomorrow. If Geno Smith gets the start, we know he's turnover prone. Or if Ryan Fitzpatrick goes and starts turning the ball over, the Jets are going to have a hard time. Which Jets team shows up? I think Philadelphia is going to come out and really be looking to run all up and down the field. They're going to have a hard time, though, against this Jet defense, especially if Darrelle Revis can go. He's questionable. They'll need him to play. Caveat is if Darrelle Revis plays, but I'm expecting him to play, and I'm going to take the Jets, and the Eagles are really going to have to do some soul searching after this week because the Jets are going to continue to roll, and I'd like them to win tomorrow 27-23 over the Philadelphia Eagles. The Jets are at home. Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Houston to play the Texans. Houston, again, another team I had in the playoffs, not looking too good as of right now. For injuries, for Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, wide receiver, probable. Major Wright, safety, doubtful. Gerald McCoy, defensive tackle, questionable. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins, the tight end, questionable. For Houston, DeAndre Hopkins, questionable. Jonathan Grimes, running back, questionable. Arian Foster is still out, the running back, their best running back. Dwayne Brown on the offensive line, their tackle is questionable. And C.J. Fedorowicz, their tight end, is questionable. Houston is a better team than the way they've been playing, and I look for this defense to finally show up and really give Jameis Winston a hard time tomorrow. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and Whitney Merciless are going to have to start getting the pressure. Vince Wilfork is going to have to show why they brought him over to play. Now, Ryan Mallett is expected to start. DeAndre Hopkins, if he can't go, he's going to lose a weapon. But when I see guys questionable, I usually expect that they're going to play. So I'm expecting them to go. No Arian Foster, another issue for Houston. They're going to have to really get pressure on the defensive side of the ball. This offense, I don't know if they figured it out yet. I think the switch in the quarterback has hurt, considering that Brian Hoyer was going through all of training camp as the starter. So they're going to have to rely on their defense, and they're going to have to get this game. I don't think Tampa Bay is good enough to win. I think Houston's still going to struggle, but they're just too talented not to beat this Tampa Bay team. So I'm going to go with Houston 23-20 at home. The Houston Texans are. San Diego Chargers travel to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Again, another East Coast team traveling, this time only to the Central Time Zone, but it's still going to be difficult. For San Diego, Ladarius Green, their tight end, is questionable. Jacoby Jones, the wide receiver, but he's more of a kick returner, is out. Minnesota is showing no injuries. For Minnesota, get back to Adrian Peterson, let him take over, let him be the beast we know he can be. I'd still like them to see them open up more of the playbook for Teddy Bridgewater, get him more involved going downfield. I think that'll help. No Ladarius Green, he's a nice complement to Antonio Gates as a 1-2 tight end punch. Melvin Gordon is off to a good start this year. Look for him to get a bit more carries, especially with Darius Green being out. I don't think they're going to throw the ball that much. I think they're going to look to run the ball a bit more on the road. I like Minnesota in this game. I don't think San Diego's defense is good enough to shut down Adrian Peterson. I think he's hungry. I think that San Francisco game where he wanted to come out and really play and didn't get the ball much or was chomping at him, and that's why he came out like he did last week, and I expect him to continue. Minnesota, Teddy Bridgewater is going to have to manage the game, so to speak. I don't usually like that managed term, but that's how most people watching would understand it as. I'd like to just see him make the simple throws, do everything that's needed, and when the opportunities present themselves with Mike Wallace, he takes advantage of them. So I like the Minnesota Vikings tomorrow. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, especially with San Diego traveling to the Central Time Zone. So I like Minnesota 21-16 over the San Diego Chargers. Pittsburgh is going to St. Louis to play the Rams. The Steelers came out very good last week against the 49ers. The Rams, they won a game against Seattle, who's defending Super Bowl champions, are 0-2. Then they lost to a Washington Redskins team, which just really got exposed, I think, the other night against the Giants. So I'm a little confused about where St. Louis is. Now, the game they played, they did travel to Washington, but St. Louis, while they're in the NFC West, they play in the Central Time Zone. So I don't think that should have been that big of an issue. Injuries, Cortez Allen, the cornerback for Pittsburgh, is questionable. Ryan Shazier, the good linebacker, is out. Marcus Wheaton, the wide receiver, is probable. Todd Gurley, questionable for the St. Louis Rams, the running back, is their only injury report. I think Pittsburgh's going to roll again. I think they're going to look to throw the ball. There's no indications that anyone can stop Antonio Brown at this point. He's at almost 330 yards receiving for 2 games. That's just sensational. I mean, even if you take out the 195 that he had, that still leaves him with 133 yards in the other game, 2 touchdowns. So 18 receptions as well through 2 games. He's going to run into Janoris Jenkins. Janoris Jenkins is a quality cornerback, but I think he's going to struggle because Antonio Brown is just too good. Ben Roethlisberger is just going to be looking to wing and dang all day long. And if St. Louis can't get any pass rush, it's really going to be a long game. Nick Foles has to improve for St. Louis. Running back, Tavon Austin's their leading runner, and he's a wide receiver. So I don't see St. Louis doing much of anything, especially if they're not going to run the ball, and especially if Todd Gurley can't go. But he's questionable. I'm expecting him to play. I don't think it'll really matter. Pittsburgh continues to roll tomorrow, 31-20. The 49ers are traveling to Arizona. Arizona 2-0 and look very impressive in their 2 games. San Francisco 1-1. They got manhandled by Pittsburgh last week, so they're going to come out angry this time. For injuries on San Francisco, Reggie Bush, the running back, out. Bruce Ellington, wide receiver, questionable. Carlos Hyde, the running back, probable. So especially if Reggie Bush can't play, Carlos Hyde has to go. For the Cardinals, Andre Arlington, the running back, doubtful, and Mike Iupati, the former San Francisco 49er, on the offensive line at guard, is questionable. San Francisco's defense had a hard time last week, especially their secondary, and with Carson Palmer and Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald for Arizona, I'd look for them to again struggle. Now, if they're able to run the ball with Carlos Hyde, they're going to keep Carson Palmer off the field. They might be competitive. San Francisco, tough team to really peg. They looked very good their first week, looked very bad against the Steelers. I didn't think much of them coming into this year, but again, they still do have talent on both sides of the ball. I just don't think they have enough, and I think they've lost too much. So I think their secondary, which has really been hampered, is going to struggle tomorrow, and I think Arizona gets the win. High scoring. San Francisco can't keep up. They'll probably score some points, but they won't be able to score enough. They just don't have the firepower on the offensive side of the ball. So I like Arizona tomorrow, 35 to 24 over the 49ers. Buffalo Bills go to Miami to play the Dolphins. Division battle. Both teams off a loss. Both teams 1-1. Injuries. Buffalo. Jerry Hughes, defensive end, probable. Aaron Williams, their safety, is out. LaShawn McCoy, running back, probable. Percy Harvin, their wide receiver, probable. Marquise Goodwin, their wide receiver, is out. For Miami, Deion Sims, tight end, doubtful. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback, probable. Brandon Albert, offensive tackle, doubtful. Jordan Cameron, tight end, questionable. Lamar Miller, running back, questionable. Cameron Wake, defensive end, probable. So a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball. I'm going to see how Tyrod Taylor does. He had a lot of interceptions last week. If he can cut that down, obviously Buffalo, for any team, but Buffalo, because that's what we're talking about. When you don't throw interceptions, you improve your chances to win. Buffalo scored a lot of points, and their defense is very good. So I expect that trend to continue tomorrow. Miami is really got to be wondering what they're going to do after that loss to Jacksonville. They had high hopes coming into this year. They're not running the ball that well. Their top running back, Lamar Miller, is 23 carries for 67 yards this year. That's not even 3 yards per carry. And he is questionable. Yes, he's questionable, so he might not even play tomorrow. Buffalo's defense, very good. We're going to get pressure on Tannehill. And LaShawn McCoy, expect him to have a big game. And Tyrod Taylor to continue to improve. So I like Buffalo in this game. I don't know if they're going to score as many points as they have been scoring, but I like them to win 23 to 14 over Miami tomorrow. Chicago travels to Seattle to play the Seahawks. I'm going to be pretty quick with this one because I don't think Chicago stands much of a chance, especially with Jay Cutler out. Who knows, though? That may be an improvement, but I don't think Jimmy Clausen is an upgrade at all. Injuries, we'll give them to you. For Chicago, Marquise Wilson, wide receiver, probable. Matt Forte, running back, probable. Eddie Roy, wide receiver, questionable. Alshon Jeffrey, the wide receiver, out. So they're really going to have a hard time manufacturing many points in this game. For the Seahawks, Luke Wilson, tight end, questionable. Marshawn Lynch, running back, questionable. Seattle needs to win. They're 0-2. Not that bad of a team, but they're definitely going to be hungry and focused. And Chicago is a mess. So that's about all the insight I'm going to give you to this game because I don't expect it to be close at all. I like Seattle getting a lot of turnovers and really putting pressure on Jimmy Clausen all day long. Probably going to get a few points off defense as well, and maybe even special teams. Seahawks 34 to 14, big time tomorrow. I don't see any resistance in that game. Okay. And then the Sunday night game, the Denver Broncos travel to Detroit to play the Lions. The Lions are 0-2. Hard to know what to make of Denver because they looked very sloppy the first week where they did get a win against Baltimore, and they really had to come back, and they at times looked completely outmatched against the Chiefs, but they did come back and win. They are 2-0. No injuries reported for Denver. For the Lions, DeAndre Levy is again doubtful. That's really going to hurt. I think that's what's really contributing to the 0-2 start for the Lions. Matthew Stafford, probable. Ezekiel Ansah, the defensive end, probable. Brandon Pettigrew, their tight end, is out. Now, Detroit can score points, and I think, again, when you talk about quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, like Tom Brady, you can't, look to just control the clock. I mean, that's important, but you have to score points with these guys. Even though Denver has not really shown their offense to be clicking to its fullest. I'm actually going to go with Detroit in this game. I think they're a better team. I don't think they're an 0-3 team. I think Denver traveling to Detroit is going to have its effect. I still think that Denver is working out a few wrinkles on offense that they've been able to get away with in 2 wins, but I don't expect what to happen again in this game. I think Matthew Stafford's going to look to put up points. He's going to find Calvin Johnson. Obviously, DeAndre Levy not playing is really going to give them a hard time, and their secondary for Detroit is weak. But I am picking Detroit to pull off somewhat of a shocker. I don't think it would be that big of one if you really think about the game. But I'm liking Detroit in this game to win 30-27. Alright, so those are all the games for tomorrow. Let's just see. Yep, those are all the games for tomorrow. So we will see you again on Monday. We will break down all these games, and then we will give you the Monday Night Football preview between the Green Bay Packers, who are hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. So enjoy the games tomorrow, and we'll see you on Monday.